Welcome back to Good Morning LaLa's Transformation Tuesday. We're so honored to have Jay Menez in the house, who's the host of Hollywood Real Show. He's author of Spark and so much more. How are you doing this morning?
Great. Thank you for having me, guys.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you for being here. You really
Thank you.
have mastered transformation because the stories you're telling are really about triumphs and self-discovery. What was the catalyst for you in creating this inspired media?
You know, I call myself a sort of a master of a reinvention. I've done it several times in my life, from public service to law school in Wall Street, to real estate, to the restaurant business, to Hollywood filmmaking. And really, there was a time about 10 years ago. I had a real estate company, and the crash caused me basically to lose my business, and it was really low point in my life. And I knew I had to start over again. But I knew that, I had to ask myself if I really wanted to go down that same path again into finance. And I decided I wanted to do something more creative and just start over. But I had to learn how to be a beginner again.
Right. You know, Dr. Kiyosaki, I'm sure if you're in real estate, I'm sure that you, went to Rich Dad Poor Dad and all that. And I remember also one of the points is that oftentimes one of the changes where people transform and they go into a completely different career hurts them financially. But I'm of a belief, which I'm sure you are, where you have to stay true to that intuition, that place in yourself that's like, I've got to do this and I don't know why, it's just a calling. What was the calling for you for making the transformation from real estate to Hollywood? Well,
it was a couple things. But mainly, when I was in finance, I had a tremendous success. I was living in Orange County, multi-million-dollar house, exotic cars, and I was living that dream life that people think of. But for me, I always thought that there was something missing. And one of my first careers was as a firefighter and a police officer. And I'd kind of lost that sense of contribution. So that's something that I really wanted to get back to. And I thought that with filmmaking, I could tell inspiring stories. Stories that are empowering to people, especially young people, which carries over to my show and my book.
I love it. What would you say is the key to reinvention? I think a lot of people want to reinvent themselves or reinvent their lives or their careers. What do you find, or what have you discovered to be the key to reinvention?
Oh, gosh. There was a book written by this brilliant author named Carol Dweck. She wrote a book called Mindset, and it talks about the growth mindset as opposed to the fixed mindset. And that's really about knowing that you can do and accomplish anything that you're willing to work hard enough for, and that you're not limited by your circumstance, where you came from, your education, even a lot of times your physical state at the time. I've talked to, and I have friends that have done the impossible physically. There's a man who was born with no legs. He's an Olympic runner now. There's a good friend of mine who's 5'3", wanted to be a pro basketball player, and he became the shortest man in the NBA at 5'3".
Wow.
Yeah, Muggsy Bogues.
Yes, Muggsy Bogues, yeah.
Yes.
So they must have very strong mental habits that contribute to their success. We know that you've listed 8 of them. Could you share a few with us?
Sure. The first 2 are the mission mindset, which goes to having intention in your life, having direction. You don't want to go through life floating around, not having something to aim at. It's very important that that we choose a path and go that way, even if it may be temporary. The second is an action mindset, which is about taking action. It's the opposite of entitlement. It's taking responsibility for your life. It's talking about extreme ownership and just taking ownership of everything that happens, even if you get cut off in traffic. Well, if it's very empowering if you could kind of turn that around and say, I was somehow responsible for that, and it takes the control out of other people. It puts it all back in your hands. And there's 6 others, including, and I'll just list them. There's creativity mindset, which is a figure-outableness in your life. There is we talked about the growth mindset. We've talked about abundance. We can't go without abundance. A mindset of gratitude, of course, and generosity, which is being kind to other people. And my favorite is a mindset of connection, and that's presence with other people, and empathy.
I love this. I read this Forbes article today that spoke directly to what you just shared, and it basically said that only 15% of success can be attributed to technical expertise, and the other 85% is attributed to what we call human engineering, which is basically personality, communication, ability to negotiate and lead. But basically, it's a mindset, right? So I just love that. Have you always been interested in sort of human psychology and understanding what makes people successful? And
I have. I think going back to my days in the police department, I was raised in kind of suburbia outside of Washington, D.C., and rather sheltered compared to where I went to work years later, which was in Alexandria, Virginia. And there's a lot of unfortunate circumstances there, things that I'd never seen before, a lot of domestic violence. And I think that is where I started to become interested in social psychology and what makes people tick, how we influence others, and how we persuade.
And how they get the spark, right?
That's right. Yeah.
That's your book. So where can people find your book?
It's on Amazon right now. Before Thanksgiving, I'll be releasing a hardcover version of it.
Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
So beautiful.
So just search there.
And they can find your show, and they can, do you work one-on-one with people as well?
I do. Coaching? Yes. Very limited. I don't advertise that. It's really started out, it came to me by accident. People just saying, hey, you've been where I want to be. Can you help me out? And with limited time, I had to charge a little bit. It started with friends. But I also believe that while I could have done it for free, people take it more serious when they have to pay something.
So true.
And in fact, in the early days, what I did was I didn't want them to think that I was taking their money. So what I did is every session, I would have them donate to a charity and show me the receipt. So they're paying for it, and it's benefiting something else because I didn't really need it.
yeah, love it. Love your heart.
Tell everyone where they can find and follow you.
You can follow me at @VJMenez on social, on my website, jmenez.com, and of course, HollywoodReal.tv.
Thank you, Jay. Stay tuned. We'll
Thank
be
you.
back with more
Such a
on Good Morning
pleasure.
La La Land.